Okay, so here we go. Let's start off with the first big story of the night. We have Kyle Lewis going to the Arizona Diamondbacks. Kyle Lewis, man, won the Rookie of the Year in 2020. He was looking like he was primed to be a really solid player. Unfortunately, started having a lot of injuries, especially with his knee. So his value has really dropped off. And going back to the Mariners in this trade, we got Cooper Hummel. Now, if we go take a look at the trade, like I said, Kyle Lewis, no value whatsoever according to baseball trade values. It really fell off. While someone like Cooper Hummel, mainly a minor league player at the moment, but he has shown some pretty solid numbers down in the minor leagues, so a value of 1.20. Overall, this trade was approved on baseball trade values. Now, it's just so crazy to me. Kyle Lewis winning the Rookie of the Year in a shortened season in 2020, had really good numbers that year. Like I said, only 58 games, but hit 262, 364 on base, a 437 slugging, but he did have 11 home runs and 28 RBIs and 5 stolen bases as well. So was primed to be looking like a really solid player for the Mariners. In the end, they just couldn't get him going, and now he's going to the Diamondbacks. And I do think this could end up being a pretty solid fit if he gets himself back on track. Now, outfield-wise, I'm not quite sure because their outfield is looking pretty full at the moment. If you take a look, Dalton Varsho in center field, Corbin Carroll, this guy's going to be a star out in left, and then you got Jake McCarthy. Now, maybe Jake McCarthy could end up getting traded. We'll have to wait and see. But right now, I see Kyle Lewis as more of a guy that can share some DH time with someone like a Pavin Smith. You know, could they part ways with Jake McCarthy? Maybe you could put Kyle Lewis out there. But with his injury history, I don't know. I would think maybe you want to put him more at designated hitter. We'll just have to wait and see what the Diamondbacks end up doing next. Now, for the Mariners, Cooper Hummel, as of right now, probably more of a AAA guy at the moment. He is playing in the Arizona Fall League. But if you take a look at his numbers down in the minor leagues, he did play a bit this year with the Diamondbacks, 66 games. Didn't really amount to anything. But in the minors, man, last year he had a 423 on base over 33 games, hit 310, a 527 slugging. He's hit for power as well. He was in the Brewers system before going to the Diamondbacks. But in the end, I think this is just more of a change of scenery kind of a thing. Kyle Lewis, I think he needed a fresh start somewhere. Let's see if it can work out with the Diamondbacks. And Cooper Hummel, this could be a guy that, hey, maybe can contribute for the Mariners this year. We'll have to wait and see. With Cooper Hummel, he can kind of play a bit all around in the outfield. He can play some catcher, actually, and DH as well. So who knows what ends up happening. I think for the Mariners, I think there's a good chance you bring back Mitch Haniger, fan favorite. People in the organization love him. But maybe Cooper Hummel can contribute this year. We'll have to wait and see. But also with the Mariners, there is some interest from the Mariners going towards the Brewers on Kolten Wong, second baseman. Kolten Wong, not very good defensively this past year. That's what he's always been known for. But offensively was pretty decent. And the Mariners, they could use someone at second base now with Adam Frazier heading out of town. As of right now, you got Dylan Moore listed there. But I think Kolten Wong could be a pretty solid addition for them. We'll just have to wait and see. But let's shift our focus now to the Baltimore Orioles, and my good buddy Jim Bowden has a story. Jim Bowden, I know you blocked me on Twitter, but I'm coming after your bad trade proposals sooner or later, my friend. You better watch your back. But the Baltimore Orioles, he does have a story here. The Orioles are swimming in the deep end and touching base with the agents for almost all of the free agent pictures. The big question, are they ready to compete financially with the big market teams to actually land one? Now, you got to remember with the Orioles, it wasn't too long ago, they had a payroll near $200 million. I believe it was around $180 million of payroll at one point. The Orioles have money to spend, and they have barely any money committed to their players as of right now. So I absolutely think they could go after some starting pitching. We got a lot of big names out there. Carlos Rodon, Jacob deGrom, Justin Verlander. There are names out there. I honestly would not be surprised if they went after a guy like Carlos Rodon. They could really use a guy like that. Grayson Rodriguez, I was really excited to see him this year. Unfortunately, had a lat injury this year, so we didn't get to see him. But I think for the Orioles, they played it smart, holding him off until this coming year. But their starting pitching was pretty solid last year. It wasn't amazing by any means, but they were getting the job done. So we'll just have to wait and see. Jordan Lyles, he is a free agent now, so I think they really could use a guy. And Carlos Rodon would be huge if they could pick someone up like him. Could you imagine I don't think they're going to go after Jacob deGrom, but that would just shock the baseball world if you ask me, if they ended up signing Jacob deGrom. But I think someone like a Carlos Rodon could make some sense, because you could get him for probably 4 or 5 years, probably cost you around maybe some Robbie Ray kind of money, like a 5-year deal, maybe 6 years, maybe 5 years, 110 million. That's what Robbie Ray ended up getting. So I could see a contract like that for Carlos Rodon. I think he would be a really nice piece. For the Orioles last year, they were really fun, right there in the wild card race. I think they need a boost in pitching. I think starting pitching is definitely an area they need to address. I do think they're primed to go after a shortstop. They were tied to Carlos Correa last offseason. I think a guy like that could be huge for this lineup. A lot of young players. I think a big-time guy like him, bring in someone like Carlos Rodon, and oh man, this Orioles team, they're looking pretty good. So we'll just have to wait and see what they end up doing, but let's move on to our next story. Let's talk about the Chicago Cubs. They are interested in catchers Christian Vazquez and Omar Narvaez. Now, we all know Wilson Contreras is a free agent, and I still think there is a chance he could go back. The people in Chicago love Wilson Contreras, but if they do want to go in another direction, I honestly think someone like Christian Vazquez would be a really nice move for them. Christian Vazquez, he's not going to give you a ton with the bat. I've said this a million times, but he's not going to be terrible with the bat by any means. Hit 274 last year, 315 on base, 399 slugging between the Red Sox and the Astros. But the thing with Christian Vazquez, he's just a winning player. He has those intangibles that I think are extremely valuable for a team. Very good defensively. That's the one big thing with Christian Vazquez, but he's very good with a pitching staff as well. And the Chicago Cubs, yes, sure, I do think they need to add some starting pitching, but I think with a guy like Christian Vazquez, who is just such a preparation freak, I think he would be amazing for these young guys over there. I think he would be really good with Marcus Stroman, add another starting pitcher possibly, and I think you got yourself a good recipe for success. I think Christian Vazquez would be a great fit for the Chicago Cubs. He would definitely be way better defensively than Wilson Contreras has been. And then there's also an option like someone like Omar Narvaez, very good defensively as well. A pretty good season offensively in 2021, hit 266 with a 342 on base, had 11 homers. This year, his offense did dip, but his defense was still really solid. So I could see the Cubs going this route as well. It'll be interesting to see, could they just turn back to Wilson Contreras, or could they go after one of these guys? I think either way, I think they're going to end up with one of these guys personally. Or could you maybe make a trade for a Sean Murphy? I think that's very possible as well. So we'll just have to keep our eyes out for this one. And for our last story, the Blue Jays are interested in Brandon Nimmo. No surprise here. I think this makes a ton of sense. If you're living under a rock and you didn't see the trade yesterday, the Blue Jays traded away fan favorite, good bat Teoscar Hernandez to the Mariners. And I think it was a good trade for both sides. The Mariners get to upgrade their offense, which I think they needed to do. But the Blue Jays getting Eric Swanson, who's going to be huge for their bullpen, had a really good year last year with the Mariners. And they also get a pitching prospect as well. And Adam Macko has some pretty good stuff, throws pretty hard. But overall, I liked this trade for both sides. But if we're taking a look at the Blue Jays, they really need a lefty bat. My goodness, they just need something from the left side of the plate. And Brandon Nimmo, I mean, look at the year that he had last year. Really solid season. He's always been an on-base guy. I think that would be huge for the Blue Jays lineup. Last year, hitting 274 with a 367 on base, 433 slugging, a 134 WRC plus, 16 homers. Very solid season with the Mets. And they've already said that George Springer would be okay moving to right field. So this just makes a ton of sense if you ask me. So we'll just have to wait and see what the Blue Jays end up doing. But there is also an interesting report out there that the Blue Jays are one team to watch on Cody Bellinger. You got the non-tender deadline coming up, and it is not a guarantee that the Dodgers will pay Cody Bellinger that much money with his last year in arbitration, close to $20 million. I mean, are you going to be paying that much money for Cody Bellinger, who hasn't really shown a ton of production the last couple of years? I understand he's had some injuries, but for the Dodgers, I mean, it makes a lot of sense for them to consider not bringing back Cody Bellinger. We'll just have to wait and see what they end up doing. But if he does get non-tendered, the Blue Jays are a team to look out for, according to John Morosi. Now, with Cody Bellinger, like I said, not a whole lot of offense. Did have 19 home runs. With Cody Bellinger, though, he's still playing some pretty solid defense out there in the outfield. So this could be another option. I think for the Blue Jays, they will add some sort of a left-handed bat. whether if it's Nimmo, whether if it's like a bit of an out-of-the-box solution like a Cody Bellinger. I think something like that could end up happening. We'll just have to wait and see at the end of the day. But let me know what you think of everything I've talked about in this video. What do you think of the reports out there, the rumors? But that's all I got for right now. Thanks for watching, and I'll talk to you next time.